All right, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video, and thank you for joining me. As you can see, we've got some parts laid out here in front of us. We're looking at a complete VulcanWorks chain conversion kit for my 2024 Harley Davidson Road Glide. I've got a bunch of parts on order. Some are currently in shipping, some are still being built, and this was the first thing that showed up, so this is what we're doing today. We're also waiting on a billet swing arm, a billet compensator, my 19-inch front wheel, a bunch of forged carbon, etc. So over the next few months, the Road Glide is going to be going under a bit of a transformation process before the bike season. I'm hoping to have most of it done by the end of March when we leave for Arizona Bike Week, but I do want to have some installs going, in between Arizona Bike Week and Sturgis, and throughout the year, keep things exciting and keep things moving for you guys. So hopefully you're ready for these next few months. I know I am. I'm really excited to get back to wrenching on the bike that started the channel with you guys. So yeah, we're gonna get things started here. I'll start draining the oil, and then we will talk about why I decided to go with a chain conversion kit, because some people think that doing a chain conversion on a Harley Davidson is necessary for high horsepower or unnecessary because the belt drives are great. And there are certain circumstances where a chain conversion has its place on these bikes. So we're going to dig into that. And I'll also kind of allude to why I chose the VulcanWorks kit over a lot of the other offerings like Trask, Arlen Ness, Alloy Art, etc. So let's get things rolling here. All right, so we'll start things off by draining our primary oil. That's gonna be a 5/8. All right, so while this oil is draining, let's talk about why someone would or would not want to do a chain conversion kit. So who's a chain conversion kit really good for? Someone with a very high horsepower build, or a very tall bike, or someone who does not want to have to service a belt when it breaks. Those are pretty much the only reasons. And when I say high horsepower, I'm not talking about a cam. I'm talking about like a 143 turbo type of situation, right? Like you're talking close to 200 horsepower plus. Now that does come with a caveat that, depending on how you ride the bike, that does affect, when you should be looking at a chain conversion versus sticking with a belt if you prefer a belt drive. When it comes to high horsepower setups, if you're dumping the clutch hard, there's a good chance that you could end up, stripping some teeth off of your belt or breaking it. But most of the time, what I tend to see from people on forums and whatnot is, someone's got like a 150, 160 horsepower bike, and they're like, I've got to do a chain conversion. And you've got like old timers that have been doing this for a long time that say, dude, that belt is nowhere near, in danger of snapping because of, your current horsepower and build setup. So that is really dependent on, again, how you're riding. If you're beating the shit out of the thing, there's a good chance that maybe it doesn't last as long as other people's setups with similar horsepower ratings. So that's something you have to factor in for yourself. But a lot of people do like these belt drives. They're zero service besides, every once in a while setting the tension by, adjusting your axle. But I mean, very, very minimal compared to a chain. You don't have, you don't have to clean it. You don't have to oil it. You go on a trip, you don't have to look at it at all, set it before you go, the tension, and just go ride 5,000 miles and never think about it, right? You can't quite do that with a chain conversion. You should be oiling it every few thousand miles or less. You're gonna have to clean it, but for me, I bag off, clean the bike every wash anyway, so that's not a huge concern for me. But anyways, back to it. So the second reason is going to be height. And that is actually the reason that I am choosing to do a chain conversion, because to be honest, I love this belt drive. It's so smooth. It's actually very healthy for the drivetrain, your compensator, everything like that. You're not providing as much shock to all of that, from just clutch dumping, rear wheel and stuff like that, as you are when you do a chain conversion. So, and that is actually the reason that I am going to be upgrading my compensator while we're in here. It's currently in shipping, as I said. That is from Baker Drivetrain. It is a complete new compensator and tooth sprocket setup, not just the compensator ramp. If you wanted to do it cheaper and still upgrade the compensator ramp, because these are known to break into 3 pieces under shock and stress, even with a belt drive, Star Racing makes one. And then if you want another option, which a lot of people choose to go with, which would be the Dark Horse, but the Dark Horse one, you end up with it being a serviceable item where it does have wear pads in it, and you do have to replace those. Whereas the Baker drivetrain one is a no service like the stock one, but just a much more stout setup. So it's like a hardened steel, whatever. So that's the one that I went with and we'll be installing later on in either this video or the next one. So as I said, the reason that I am doing a chain conversion on this is actually due to height constraints. So you can go 14 inches in the rear with the stock belt. Stock suspension height is 13 inches. I've got 1 inch added here, so I'm at 14 inches currently, a little over 14 inches. And already I am nearing the point of rubbing my belt on my primary in here. Once you adjust that swing arm angle too much, there's just no way to continue to run a belt setup. You have to switch to a chain drive, and it's a good idea to also add a chain tensioner so that you're keeping that chain up and away from hitting on the bottom half. So these bikes are really set up well stock, and unless you're considering doing the things that I'm doing, where I'm trying to make it a more performance-oriented touring machine and having a lot of fun just messing up what was perfectly good from Harley Davidson engineers, that's just what I'm choosing to do here. So keep that in mind. This is not something for everybody. This is just going down a rabbit hole of screwing with stuff until it gets better or worse, but it's fun. So that's what we do. The third reason is for maintenance. As you're going to see here, everything that I am having to disassemble to get in there and do this chain conversion is what you would have to do to replace your belt, and more actually. To replace your belt, you have to pull your whole outer primary, inner primary, your swing arm has to be removed, so your rear wheel has to be removed. Everything has to come out so that you're able to slip that belt in and around the swing arm, in between the engine and the swing arm, and then back in, and then reassemble everything. So we saw it in Sturgis. We saw a guy with a snapped belt that was parked there on the side of the road, and it was like, damn, that's an 8-hour labor. At least, I don't know. I mean, that's a half day of labor at Harley Davidson at $200 an hour. In Sturgis, probably way more than that. So doing these belt replacements is not rocket science, but it is time consuming. And if you're not doing it yourself, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be nearly $1,000 probably. Some people opt for a chain conversion just for ease of replacement. Once you've got your steel chain sprocket in your primary side, you've got your rear sprocket, and you've got your chain. When you need to replace something, you can just replace your chain or your rear sprocket, and your front sprocket is usually the one that wears out the least. Over time, it'll shark fin, which is where the sprocket teeth will be a little bit worn out, but that's a long way off versus replacing a belt. So as far as I know, those are the 3 reasons that someone would choose to do a chain conversion from a belt. I guess the 4th reason would just be that people prefer that. It is a bit more of a experience to ride. It's just more snappy, it's more instantaneous, it feels tighter, it's a little bit more mechanical, and some people enjoy that. Same as like an electronic steering in a car versus a rack and pinion steering. You're not feeling the road and feeling those inputs nearly as much with an electronic steering as you are with an old school system. Same with this, right? The belt takes up a lot of that, torque that you would get from the road and from what the suspension's doing and how the bike's handling versus the chain conversion, right? So the chain is a maintenance item in itself. Like I said, you've got to be oiling it every, 500 miles is probably a good idea. Cleaning it, servicing the rear sprocket. The rear sprocket, if you go with an aluminum one, good luck, dude. Go with a steel one like I did, because aluminum ones, they wear out so fast. That's kind of the story behind a chain. Belt, as I said, just really damn convenient and pretty much maintenance free until it breaks. So my suggestion to you guys is, if you want to do a chain conversion, watch this video. If you don't, well, still watch it because you like watching me work on stuff. But yeah, leave it alone. Enjoy the belt. Enjoy the belt drive life, because I'm about to not anymore. I also have a chain conversion on my Dyna, so none of my Harleys have a belt drive after today. Enough about that. Let's talk about why I opted for a VulcanWorks chain kit over Trask, Arlen Ness, Alloy Art, and whoever the hell makes a chain conversion kit for these bikes. VulcanWorks is an engineering company that is all about, you know, the specs, and they nerd out on that stuff, right? So they're the only company out of all of those that I just listed that tells you what steel they use for their sprocket, what bearing they use in their kit. They are all about every single product that they make, and you know, giving those types of details and paying attention to those types of details and knowing it, because that's, you know, what they do, is, you know, important to me. Beyond that, they offer more teeth sizes than all these other companies. If you want to gear up, gear down, you know, whether you want more low end or top end, they have a lot of different options for you. Whereas, for example, the Arlen Ness, which is the cheapest of the bunch, they offer you one size. And I've scoured the internet for a different size. I think it's only like, it's either a 52 tooth or 54 tooth, whatever it is, you cannot change from that. And so for me, that just knocks it out of contention right there. It looks cool, but the next thing that I look at when I consider these chain conversions is there's two types, right? There is the bolt to your wheel type, like Lindell. I could have done that and it would match my wheel and look really cool. It's chrome and whatnot, but then you're losing your cush drive, and you get rid of that cush drive, and now you are really adding a lot more shock to your compensator and your crankshaft and whatnot, because now you don't have a cush drive and you don't have a belt. So you just, yeah. So I wanted to keep the cush drive assembly, and so that's why, you know, I've considered the few options that I mentioned. And Trask uses 5 bolts to bolt their sprocket to their cush drive hub. Arlen Ness and Alloy Art use 6. VulcanWorks uses 8. I know that's not a direct indicator that it can handle more abuse, but you know, 8. 5 bolts versus 8. I know that Trask makes turbo kits. I know that, you know, they put their chain conversion kit on their bike with a turbo kit and it holds up. I get it. Use whatever you like. I'm just telling you what drove my decision-making process. I used VulcanWorks chain for my chain conversion on my Dyna as well. It's fantastic, looks great, and the price point is like hundreds of dollars cheaper. I'll bring you guys in close and show you the kit itself and all the powder coating and all the machine work and everything like that, and show you the nice finish of it. But yeah, it was like $700 with a chain, whereas Trask and Alloy Art is almost $1,000 without a chain. So, and you're not at that point paying for a better product. You're overpaying for the same billet aluminum carrier and then you know, their own sprockets. So do your own research on that, but if you don't want to, trust me, I have, and that's what I came up with. Looks like our oil's done draining because I've yapped my ass off for the last 5 minutes. Let's get to turn into this thing, huh? All right, before we can remove the outer primary cover here, we need to get the rider and passenger floorboards and their mounts out of the way. No need to separate the floorboards from the mounts, just pull the whole mount arms, just get them out of the way, that way we have full access to our primary cover. For the passenger floorboard, we're looking at 1/4 for the bottom and a 5/16 for the top. All right, so now that we have our floorboards out of the way, we could pull our outer cover. I'm gonna go ahead and tackle the linkage first, because the linkage is going to have to be disconnected so that the inner primer is able to come off, since currently it's all attached. A few different ways you could do that. Previous models, you were able to just remove the shifter here, but the way that the casting works with the inner primary here, it can't really slip through and out that way, so you're left with either pulling the arm down here or up here or back there and pulling it all as one. I'm gonna remove it from right here. All right, we're ready to remove all of our outer primary cover bolts. They're 3/16. If you wanted, you could actually do the derby cover first, because you are eventually going to need to remove it to add oil back in, but I'm opting to leave it on for now. Then when I reassemble, I'll pull it off. That way I just have a little bit less spread out all over the workbench that I have to worry about. So as you can see, I'm starting these by hand with the 1/4 inch drive here. It's not necessary. You could just go right to buzzing these out with an impact, but I prefer to take the extra minute and just break these open by hand. There is a adhesive on the sealant, and I just really don't want to snap one of these off here. I had inner primary bolt snap on me on my Dyna, and it was just a huge pain in the butt. It wasn't my fault because it was already helicoiled by the previous owner or mechanic, whoever worked on it, but it made for a bad day, and I'm trying to avoid that here. So we'll clean everything out, chase threads as we go, and hopefully we don't make any mistakes or have any roadblocks. So now that we've got those all started by hand, we can just run them out. And it's a good idea to leave a couple of screws in. That way when you initially pop this thing off, if you accidentally drop it or slip, you don't actually drop it because the bolts catch it. So. Next up is going to be our chain tensioner. Prior to unbolting it and removing it, we're going to throw a zip tie on it. That way it is compressed, just makes it easier to put back in. Simply push down on it, lift up on the chain, slip your zip tie through. So now we'll unbolt the chain tensioner here, looking at a 1/2. Get that out of the way. So yeah, as you guys can see, there is hardly any wear at all on this shoe. I mean, 1/8 inch maybe on the front, not even that. And then just a little bit of negligible scuffing and micro pitting there. But yeah, this thing's freaking got plenty of life left, obviously. So, and that's not something that obviously you have to tear everything apart to get to. All you have to do is pull this outer cover. So it's not something that I'm concerned about to, replace. All right, and here comes our standard versus metric argument. Everybody tells me that everything is standard on these bikes, and maybe that was a thing one day, but these are 1,000,000% a 10mm. So yeah, some stuff on these bikes nowadays is metric. So be careful of that so you don't round stuff off. So 10mm on this power plate here. You don't want to back them all out, one at a time. You kind of want to evenly back them off. So now we want to remove this outer plate, but we want to leave as many of the clutch plates really as possible so that they stop this inner piece from rotating in the basket here. It's hard to obviously show you guys, but this is your clutch plates. You've got your steels and your frictions in there. They're just stacked up. And basically we need to break this clutch hub nut loose, and this inner piece spins freely from this outer basket here. So if these clutch plates aren't in here to hold everything together, you won't be able to do that. Also, make note, this is a reverse thread. All right, one more time. Like I said, this is reverse thread. So this is gonna be clockwise to loosen it. So good to go there. Make sure our clutch plates don't fall out on us here. And there we have it. Next up is going to be our compensator bolt. I think it's a T70. All right, well, I have 4 T60s and no T70. It's definitely a T70. It's a little sloppy in there with the 60, and I'm not gonna try to risk tearing that thing up. So I need to either order a T70 or go pick one up. I will check in with you guys tomorrow. Hopefully I have one, and yeah, we'll keep things rolling from there. All right, good morning. It is the next day, and hopefully you can hear me okay because it's raining like hell. But Amazon dropped off the old T70. Yeah, overnight, freaking dropped it off between 4 and 8 a.m. It's ridiculous. So we should be good to buzz off this compensator now. And this one is standard thread, so counterclockwise to back it out. As you can see, it does have some sort of a Loctite on it. So you are gonna need all the ugga-duggas to get that thing off. And from here, we're good to pull the entire clutch basket, primary chain, and compensator all in one piece. Next up is our compensator ramp here and our spring washers. These guys have like a bit of deflection to them, so when it's all compressed in, that retains tension on everything. So you've got your two big washers, your two smaller ones, one flat one that sits on this ramp. I do see a lot of wear on this compensator actually. Yeah, I'm glad that I have a new one ordered. I know the previous generation M8s had a huge problem with these compensator ramps failing, and I mean, I'm not a licensed professional here, but I can look at metal and go, that's pitted and that is worn away. There's a couple of chunks missing, and these are known, like I said, to break in three pieces, right here, here, and there, the low spots where you have the least material, and that's due from just like shock waves and cycles of abuse. So yeah, I'm glad that I'm going to be upgrading this. I'll show you guys this closer in detail, but next up for us is going to be pulling this inner primary. All right, next up we need to remove the two bolts that hold the starter into that primary housing. Super straightforward, 1/4 inch Allen. All right, so now that we have the starter pulled out, we've got 5 bolts holding the inner primary cover on, 1/2 inch socket. Once again, I am breaking these free by hand because I really just don't want to snap one of these off in the case. And I can feel a lot of resistance, and not just like smooth, like Loctite resistance, but kind of like some just like crunchies. And I know these threads are a little bit sensitive to this, so I'm definitely going to chase out the case threads with the tap before I reinstall this primary cover and slam these bolts back in. And when I say slam these bolts back in, I actually mean I will be using new bolts. I need to go to Harley Davidson and get an primary gasket kit as well as these new bolts. You should replace these. I'm not sure if they're stretch bolts or not, but they do have a gasket on the inside of the seat here, and that's how it seals now since we don't have tower gaskets like we used to on the twin cams. And so yeah, you should replace these. It's a couple bucks. Yeah, see, like that crunchy I'm feeling, it's a straight up just completely corroded and rusted bolt, and I really have no clue how that happens, because that is in the inner primary and then straight into the case. I don't think that this is exposed to the elements. Maybe it is. I'll see better once I pull that primary cover off. But what is a 2-year-old 2024 bolt looking like that inside the freaking primary? Like, what's up with that? And here we've got our gasket. I'm really glad that we have finally upgraded to a, crush gasket with a rubber seal, and we're not having to do RTV like we are on the twin cams. So thank you for that. All right, next up we need to remove our 3/16 bolts on our retaining clip guy here. So next up, we need to remove our main shaft nut here, which is holding on our belt pulley. Picked up this kit to remove it off of Amazon, super cheap. If you're gonna do this job, you might as well just buy it. It's like 20-30 bucks. So we have this piece that threads on to the end to protect the shaft itself and ensure that everything goes on straight so that you're not like and then stripping out that nut. So we're just gonna walk that on. It is reverse thread, so there's that. And then we just take our big old socket, and this is going to be standard. And this is gonna be a lot of adhesive on here. Sometimes you have to use heat. Hopefully Dan's big old Ugga Dugga will do it. Hopefully the belt teeth hold the pulley from spinning, because I do not have a locking tool for that. If not, I'll get creative with a piece of wood or something, but we'll see how we do. All right, well that was cake. Having the right tool for the job is a must. There's no way you're gonna get a standard socket all the way down this shaft anyway, so just buy the tool. So next up is my favorite part of this job. It's time to cut the belt. All right, we won't be needing this anymore. So you don't have to cut the belt. If you want, you can unbolt your swing arm, drop the whole swing arm out so that you can slip your belt out, but why the hell would you do that? So next up, we can pull our drive pulley. Maybe one-handed? Nope. Nope. All right. Two-handed. Careful pulling it off. Don't score your inner race from your primary bearing and your nice little shaft there. No leakage. That's good. I would expect nothing less. Under 20, well, just over 20,000 miles. So good to go there. All right, we are down to the last step of the disassembly process. We need to get the bike up in the air. We need to remove the rear axle and drop the rear wheel down just far enough to remove that stock belt pulley. Then I'll take you guys over to the workbench and we'll take a look at this chain conversion kit. All right, we're gonna pop our little retaining clip on our rear axle here. And we've got our 1 7/16 socket for our axle. Obviously quite simple for me because I have my exhaust ending before the axle nut, but if you have full length exhaust, do what you have to get it out of the way. And there we have it. Before I tap this guy out, I wanna make sure, yeah, we're good. We're pretty much weightless on that axle. Should be able to just pull it out on the other side. All right, there's our rear axle and our spacer guy there. And now we just need to get this thing down enough to remove that rear pulley and cush drive. Probably a good idea at this point to remove our caliper. That way I don't hit the barrel of the wheel on it. It's close, you can get away with it, but the right thing to do is just remove that caliper. All right, we've got our caliper slipped out of the way. From here, we can just keep dropping the wheel out by raising the bike up and away from it. We're done with the disassembly process. Time to get over to the workbench and take a look at this chain conversion kit and start putting stuff together. All right, here is our current mess, and here is our VulcanWorks chain conversion kit. This is our billet aluminum hub, very nice quality, really, really clean, nicely machined out on the inside, stamped with the VulcanWorks logo, made in USA. As I said, coil bearing, 8 mounting bolts to our sprocket. I forget how many teeth this sprocket is, but when you're on their website, it recommends for as close to the stock ratio as the belt drive as possible, and that's what I ended up going with. So here is our sprocket, really nice powder coat finish, steel. So we do have all of that long-term durability. It's just going to bolt up like so. We've got our 530 chain. I opted for a gold sealed O-ring chain, but they have every chain you could think of available. Just changes the price, obviously, of the kit. Here we've got our hardware. Pretty straightforward there. Flanged, serrated bottom so that it doesn't walk out. Nice. Here we've got our transmission sprocket. This is what goes on our main shaft there. So this is a 24 tooth, Vulcan Works. That's that, also steel. And my favorite part about them is very, very good instructions, right? So there's all the different teeth options that you can choose, right? You got your 49, 51, 52, 55, 58, 59, like, yeah, a lot of options there, as well as transmission sprocket. So yeah, we got pictures, we've got detailed instructions, and that is not something that we always get from companies. So I'm gonna set you guys down and we're going to throw some red Loctite on these bolts, slam them into the sprocket and hub assembly here, and yeah, just torque it to what they say and get over to the bike and throw it on the rear wheel. All right, so they recommend red Loctite and they're saying 40 to 44 foot-pounds of torque. So we'll just lube these suckers up, put these all in, and then we'll worry about torquing them down. I may end up having to torque them on the wheel once I get the rear wheel back on the bike, but that'll probably be easier than trying to, you know, do that in its current position. All right, so as I said, I think it's gonna be much easier to torque these once this is in the cush drive on the bike, so let's get to it. Now, make note here, I have replaced the stock cush drive, which I've mentioned to you guys in a previous video, but this is an Alloy Art polyurethane replacement. It is much stiffer than the stock one, but it's a great upgrade. I mean, nobody has anything bad to say about this piece. So if you guys have your rear wheel dropped out, I would highly recommend replacing your stock cush drive, rubber bushing situation, whatever you want to call it, with this upgraded one. It's still smooth, but you have a lot more tight throttle to rear wheel input, if that makes any sense. So anyways, cush drive going in. And I want to get these bolts torqued down before this red Loctite cures, so we're going to try to do it now before slipping the axle back in and everything. And we're looking at 44 foot-pounds. All right, so now we can roll the wheel back in, slip the caliper in, hopefully, and then drop the bike down, slip the axle in, easy peasy. All right, a little bit of Tin Man's jizz here on the axle. And then for now, just gonna loosely set this on because we will have to set our tension. I like to start as far forward as possible on the axle. That way we have the most adjustment. All right, so with our rear sprocket on, an axle and everything back in, our next play is going to be cleaning this up real quick and then throwing on our transmission sprocket. All right, that looks great. We've got our sprocket here, only goes one way. I mean, yeah, no, you couldn't, don't put it the other way. It goes this way. Just like so. Time to get our chain and lay it out, and we'll just zip tie it on for now. That way I know like where I wanna dock it. All right, our chain here, had to go with gold. I just love a gold chain. Looks friggin' sweet. It's gonna match, you know, the Ohlins and the frickin' fork tubes, and yeah, just looks good. Now you can wait to do all this if you have a locking tool or some other way of stopping this from spinning. You know, you have options on how you wanna do that. You know, I like doing it while the primary is off. It's easier to snake it through. When I did the Dyna, I did it the opposite because I ended up taking like a month and a half to do the job, and yeah, so I just did it the opposite. But you can fork it through later, but it's up to you. All right, so I have the link marked, the one that I want to go ahead and remove. So we're just gonna grind the head off here, and then I can use my chain breaker kit to press it out. All right, so here's our chain breaker kit, also Amazon. Got our anvil set up here. We've got our press pin, just drop that in like so. So you can see what we've got here is just the pin like so there, and then the hole here, the whole pin will just come right out. There it is. Still got our O-rings there. So a fun little trick that's gonna make this much, much easier is you can bring your chain up to your sprocket, and rather than have it fall down, you can just zip tie it. And it'll hold it in place while you do your work. All right, and here is our rivet style master. You could go this way or this way. A lot of people like to have the rivets out. It's easier to rivet itself, and then also you're able to see if you're running into any issues there. As you can see, we've got the link all pressed down. All we need to do now is flare out this rivet. We got the backside press plate on, got the rivet here. All we need to do is flare it out. All right, so now that we're all done with the chain, I went ahead and adjusted the axle a little bit just so that we're close to that 1 to 1/2 inch of play in the middle between the two sprockets. Now we have this sprocket stopped from spinning, so we should be able to get this nut on and get it torqued. So red Loctite once again, and according to our directions here, torque to 100 foot-pounds. Got it. So I know factory there is a different torque spec. It's like 100 or 80 or something like that, then back it off a quarter turn and then to like 30 foot-pounds or something like that. But 100 foot-pounds, that's what they say. That's what they found works for them. That's why I did the same thing with the Dyna, just went with their instructions on that, and haven't had any issues. So if you want to use your factory torque stuff, you can, but I have a feeling the reason that they recommend this 100 foot-pounds and just done is because the seals themselves that live in there, when you torque it and then back it off and then torque it, that's kind of what you're attempting to do, is seat those seals and then tighten everything up. So since that's already been done, I think that's the reason they just say the 100 foot-pounds. So that's what I'm doing. Use your best judgment. We're doing a burnout back there. All right, new plan. I'm gonna sit on the bike, and that is going to weigh it down enough for me to torque it. All right, so that torqued down, no problem. We've got our lock ring guy here. Freaking lines right up with the holes. Gotta go grab those bolts right here. Wire brush these up, and they are small, but they do get red Loctite. The instructions specifically say so. So that's what we're gonna do. We're looking at 90 to 120 inch pounds, not foot-pounds. All right, now this is a personal preference. As you can see, the chain rides perfectly in the chain guard or belt guard here to where you could leave it, and there are arguments to be made that you should leave it in terms of splashing up less oil from your chain itself or crap like that from the road, and also a safety factor does protect possibly if the chain was to snap. It's pretty much fully protected by your bag anyways. It's pretty far down there, your feet are up there, but still, there are arguments for both ways, right? You can use your belt deflection window here to measure, but if you don't know what a 1/2 inch or an inch is, I don't know what to tell you there. So I personally like the look of it gone. It opens up to be able to see the chain, the sprocket, the wheel. It looks a lot nicer. This is a touring bike. I put 10, 15,000 miles on it a year. Got just over 20. So there could be an argument made that since I ride so much touring, definitely makes sense to leave it there to keep the bike a lot cleaner. But when I get to those shows, I really like the way it looks without it. So I like to split the difference between performance in terms of being reasonable and also looks, and I kind of try to lean a little bit more towards looks. I'm willing to give up a little bit of practicality Ugh. Rusty water inside my swing arm. That's pretty sweet, huh? Way better. Look at that. Opens up this undersection a lot. Looks really good. And keep in mind, you know, if I was keeping this stock swing arm and I wanted to keep stuff clean, I'd probably keep it, but I am waiting on an aftermarket swing arm that's being built, so this won't be able to be used anyway. And I'm actually going to end up picking up in the near future, hopefully, an alloy art. They call it the Spreading Eagle, I believe, and it is a chain roller it's got a spring tension on it. So basically, as your chain adjustment, changes, as you ride and it stretches a little bit, the tensioner maintains the proper amount of deflection on it. So it bolts up here and the roller's down here, and it's gonna hold it like that. So that is what I have to look forward to in this section right here. Other than that, only thing we have left to do is make sure that we have the distance between both ends of the center of the axle perfectly even so that this thing is rideable in that aspect. And then obviously we want that belt tension proper. VulcanWorks says at 1/2 inch, right in the middle deflection between the two sprockets, be about here. And I like that. That's already a little bit on the tighter side. And then obviously it does tighten up a little bit more when you sit on it. You're supposed to have someone sit on it when you measure it. So that's probably about where I'm gonna leave it. I might end up, I think that's good right there. Honestly, I don't wanna make it too loose, especially without having a tensioner, have it slap on this swing arm. So measure this, see what we get, go from there. All right, that is going to do it for this one. Complete VulcanWorks chain conversion kit on my 24 Road Glide. This is gonna be the same for your M8 baggers through present, so even your 25 and 26s. So a wide range of applications there. Fit and finish looks awesome. High quality stuff. I know it is because I've had the same stuff on the Dyna for a bit now. Really looking forward to getting to ride the bike and see how it feels, be able to give you guys a review on that. Currently, this is where I stop. Unfortunately, I don't have the primary gaskets or the Baker compensator yet, but that will be here on Friday. So next week's video will be comparing the stock compensator versus the Baker one, kind of diving a little bit further into compensators, what they do, and what we can expect from upgrading one. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you found it informative. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. What applications do you think a chain conversion belong on? Do they have a place on these Harley Davidson baggers? Let me know. And don't forget to subscribe. As I said, a lot of cool parts coming in the near future. Can't wait to share it with you guys. Catch you guys in my next off week.